We are live with the first ever Sandbox session. And people are like, well, what the heck is the Sandbox? And I'll tell you what it's not. This is not a lecture. This is not something that has PowerPoints. It's not a webinar. This is a kind of, it's less of a performance. It's more about play. It's more about exploration and discovery. And I just want to know, why is it that Dee Dee decided to join me in the Sandbox today?
Because I love to play. I think that is how I live my life, how I love to be with patients, how I love to be with my doctors and teams, because if we're incorporating fun in everything we do, then there's an aliveness to that. And I know that when we have met before, that is how I felt wildly alive having conversations with you. So I love exploring and discovery. So this is right up my alley. So I'm excited.
So you're thinking we shouldn't lecture?
No, nobody wants to hear a lecture. They can get that everywhere. They can get this. This is going to be special. So
honest, fun, straight talk. That's exactly what the Sandbox is all around. Yeah. It's all about, and we're just going to try to not throw sand, though. I think that's the one thing we.
Yeah. No, because that's gross. Actually.
It's gross and gritty. And Dee Dee actually knows a lot about this because she lives like a stone's throw away from the beach. Isn't that right?
Yeah, and what's funny is I love people make fun of me. I love the beach, but I hate the sand. They're like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, well, I don't like to get dirty. So we're going to play in the sandbox and not get dirty.
Oh, I mean, it might be messy, but that's the thing. The Sandbox invokes that time in our youth when it wasn't about, you couldn't play wrong. Like it wasn't about trying, right? It was about simply being. You didn't overthink when you were in the Sandbox. You lost track of time, and it was so much more about play.
Yeah.
Now, raving fans and the idea of how to create raving fans, why is this topic something that's exciting to you, Dee
Dee? Because I find that's where things get juicy in our experience in the dental practice. Most of the time, I mean, we know this. People don't like to come to the dentist. We hear that every day, all day, and it's like, how do we shift that whole context and go, how can we play in a way that leaves people with that wow experience, that leaves them with that remarkable something that they want to go and tell other people about. It's like creating a patient experience that's different, that is fun, that is insightful, that is loving. Like giving your heart away is where I have found the most fulfillment in the dental practice, is having those heart conversations, having that connection, and having people feel like they belong.
Okay, so I don't know what happened, Dee Dee, but like the connection's beautiful, but somehow the background noise again, it just like got really loud, and I want to make sure everyone can hear you.
Okay, I heard the change in it too. I'm hearing it over here.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
That's amazing. What just happened?
I did that microphone thing.
Oh my! It's like a pin. I can hear a pin drop.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
fix it.
Dee Dee, one of the things that like, I don't know, it kind of always amazes me. So the idea that just even that word, remarkable, in that word, it's about people remarking.
Yes.
And I don't think people know how to remark on a lot of what is remarkable to a dentist. A lot of what is remarkable to a dentist and their team is clinical. It's nuanced. It's something that another dental professional would look at and go, I get that. I totally see the craft in that the meticulous detail.
Expertise.
Yeah. And that's what you go to conferences and the dentists and the teams hang out and they nerd out and geek out over like clinical stuff so they can reach great clinical outcomes. And that's amazing. But oftentimes a patient doesn't know how to remark on that.
Right. Like the patient's not going to go, oh my gosh, my crown margin, doc, that like rock. I can't wait to show my friends. Like no one's going to do that. We get to do that with our nerdy dental people. But patients, like, the saying, it's like what is it? People don't care what you say, they care how you make them feel. Like
Yeah.
that's the things that they remember. And so it's in that feeling, that connection, in that getting to know them and really caring deeply. Like I'm on a mission, okay, Shawn? I know I've said this to you before, but I want to say this out loud again. I'm on a mission to change the dental industry as a whole. That we give every single patient the very best dentistry has to offer every single time they walk through the door. Like that's what they deserve. And I feel like there's a lot of times we get busy and we're missing the boat, and it's like, well, I didn't have time to do the blanket on them or the neck pillow or the headphones or whatever. And it's like, you didn't have time not to do it. If you want people to remark about you, to be that raving fan, then it is about the little things. It's about the remembering of what they told you from last time. It's the remembering of their dental history, of where they've had a bad experience in the past, and how do we keep from recreating that and giving them a clean slate moment so that they have a better experience. My mom is the perfect example. I started in dentistry in 1989. 10 years I was in dentistry, she wouldn't go to the dentist. She was scared out of her mind. And we had to give her drugs, Halcyon, for her to do an exam. Like goofy sedatives for her to do that. But today, she's a completely different patient in the dental office. She actually enjoys it. And because we gave her the opportunity to create new memories from this point forward. So we kind of drew a line in the sand and go, okay, let's start today. How are we doing today? Are we connecting? Have you been heard? Are we making you comfortable as possible? She had to have nitrous for a long time. She doesn't even have to have that anymore. So it's, how do we get to the heart of the things that matter to our patients? And we have to take the time to listen and ask really great questions, and then take notes. Hello, take notes. Just because they told me one thing, my hygienist doesn't know, my other assistant doesn't know, my person at the front doesn't know, my doctor doesn't know, unless I'm taking notes and it gets communicated with the whole team. And so I don't know if you've had this experience where you've gone to a doctor's office and you walk up to the desk and they go, oh, yeah, insurance card and driver's license. It's like, and they shut the little window. It's like, that's not personal. Then they go, well, why are you here? So I tell the girl at the front, and then they bring me back. The nurse goes, well, why are you here? And I tell the nurse, and then the doctor walks in, well, why are you here? And I'm like, don't you guys talk to each other? It's like, how do we create a thread from the first time we meet someone all the way through where we remember their stories, we remember who they are, we go, you know what, I know you met with Susie last week and she told me what a great time you guys had, and I want to know a little bit more about your son, Chase. She told me he is the light of your life. And then they light up because I knew their child's name. And it's like, how do we look for those opportunities? I can't teach people how to care, but I've got a lot of tips and tricks on how to put systems in place so that it's easier to get through our day so that we can focus on the relationship. I mean, Shawn, I'm on a plane all the time going to clients' offices, and when I sit with the people on the plane, they're inevitably ask me what I do, and they're like, oh, I love my dentist, and I'm like, really? Like, tell me what you love about your dentist. And 9 times out of 10 with their mommy is they know me. They know my kids. They know what curricular activities my kids do. They care about me as a person. They look out for me. I mean, growing up, my dentist was my brother's t-ball coach. And so we had pool parties in his house and, really had a connection with community. And how's that?
Well, I was like, I feel like you're on a plane right now.
Right, it's coming back. But like really knowing our patients and what's important to them. I mean, I had one patient who told me that she was embarrassed about her smile, and she talked to me with her hand in front of her mouth. And she said, Dee Dee, I am here because I want to get my mojo back. My marriage is suffering, and I want to be able to flirt with my husband again. I'm like, that's better than anything she could have told me. It's like, we are going to do that together because that's a super cool result that we can help her create.
Okay, so I have to interrupt. So the fact that she was vulnerable enough, we've talked about this. I need to hit delete on everything we've talked about because we haven't talked about it today. About that idea of brokering trust.
Yes.
And the fact that you do that at such a high level, Dee Dee, is, I think, also why you're able to equip other people to do it. But I'm just saying that comes so natural to you. The fact that someone's able to open up and actually let you know what they're really going for. That's the outcome. Again, it's not the nuance of the crown margin. It's, I want confidence again so I can actually like feel good around my significant other. Like, that is the real reason.
Juicy, right?
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's our job to get to the heart of that, I believe. That it's not just, we're not providing a piece of porcelain. People don't come to our office for a piece of porcelain. They're not going, whoo, I'm porcelain deficient in my life and I gotta go to the dentist to get some porcelain. It's like patients come and they go, I worry about I always have something wrong every time I go to the dentist. And they're worried about the unknown and, what are they going to tell me today? And can I afford it? And how painful is it going to be? And all of that. And it's like, well, has anyone ever offered you the opportunity to not have stuff wrong every time you walk through the door? They're like, well, no. They just, they're always looking for something that's gone wrong. Versus us looking for what's possible for the patient. Taking our explorer and using it to find good stuff versus bad. It's like, but it's about rearranging our heart, putting it out front first. I mean, you asked me how do I create trust with people? I tell them, this here is a no judgment zone. And that's where it starts. I am your patient concierge. My job is to walk you from the time you walk into the practice all the way through your treatment, making sure we're delivering exactly what you're asking for and that we do it at a high level so that we can remain friends for the next 30 years. You're the reason I get up in the mornings to create an incredible experience for you.
And that's how a dentist and their team win. Like, that's how you set yourselves apart now. And I think maybe if someone's listening and they're like, well, are they trying to make a case for the emotional side and, like we're saying, the heart and the experience side at the expense of everything else? And it's like, no, it's not or, it's and. But I also think it's a prioritization. I feel like the heart of the practice is the heart of caring about people.
Yes.
And everything else is still massively important. You need the right systems so that, the experience or everything else is running along great. You need great clinical outcomes. You need to be excellent in all those things. But that whole idea of, like, if you build it, they will come. If all I do is great clinical dentistry, that'll separate me. It's like every other dentist is also competing on that. They're all wanting to create great outcomes. And if that's what everyone's doing, it almost becomes commoditized.
Yes.
So then what is actually different about a practice? It is the culture. It is the heart. It's the uncommon care. And that's why I love what you're doing with Patient Concierge Institute. I am such a fan, Dee Dee, because this is exactly the gold that practices are needing to hear about.
Well, so you bring up Patient Concierge Institute. So Patient Concierge became my title 20 years ago in an office. And I was like, that just sounds, from one of my marketing gals that was working with us, she was like, what do you think about that? And I'm like, okay, I'm willing to go there. Let's figure it out. So I went and looked up the definition of concierge. And, it's a person that takes care of people, that, goes above and beyond. It also said janitor was one of the definitions. And I was like, okay, well, that applies too. It's like, if you think about a concierge in a hotel, what do they do for people? They help them find great tickets. They help them get a reservation that no one could get. They make recommendations to make their stay special. That's the context of Patient Concierge Institute. It's like, how do we make these appointments special and different and a wow experience, that they feel known, they feel heard, they feel seen, and they feel important. And when I'm coaching teams, I'm like, pretend everyone's walking around with a sign that says, please make me feel important. And we're in the service business. We are in the people business. We're not in the dental business. We just happen to do dentistry.
But that's messy, right? Like it's not scientific and predictable, because I could catch someone on a bad day, or I might get misunderstood, or I might this and that. And because of that, now I align and agree with fear, which gets me to close, and yet they can sense my energy is closed and afraid. And all it does is let them know they're not safe. So they also need to be closed and afraid.
Yeah.
And now it's like, no wonder people don't like going to the dentist. Like, there's a real struggle there. Mm-hmm. And the first step to helping them get past that is actually having the courage to be open and having the courage to connect, because that gives them the permission. And you're reading them the whole time. It gives them the permission. But if they still don't choose to open up, you're still being respectful of that, even though you have that same commitment of care, and that gets felt, even if I'm not in your face.
Right. I mean, there are times where it feels like, quote, you're pulling teeth to get someone to share with you.
I like that one. I like that.
But it's your willingness to risk. That's where it can be messy, sure. But relationships are all that way. We risk in order to love. We know that going into a relationship, if we're going to love someone, the risk is losing them. The risk is feeling silly. The risk is putting myself out there and having rejection happen. And yet, the juicy stuff is on the other side. You have to risk in order to get those good things. And that's my mission. Is like, I have lived the one-tooth dentistry roller coaster. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And while that helped me up-level my clinical skills so we could move at a faster pace, which is great, because you don't want to be doing a crown prep for 4 hours. That would be silly. But then you also...
By the way, you are just rolling. I love that. You're like,
I'm hearing a little thing. Yeah.
And then Dee Dee's back.
Yeah. Risking is what makes... We, as leaders, we have to go first. So I have to risk and be vulnerable so they will risk and be vulnerable with me. Otherwise, I won't get to the juicy stuff. And it's also like, I see every patient interaction as, I'm here to make a new friend. That's it. How do I be a friend and make a friend? How do I open up and share that, hey, you've made the right decision. You're in the right place. We're going to take care of you because we care deeply. We care about you. We will take the time and the energy and the effort to hear you so that we can design whatever path we go on specifically for who you are. Like, we want to know who they are, what makes them tick, what's most important to them, what they've had that's happened that's gone great in the past, and what's happened that's gone really messy and yucky in the past, so that we can chart a new path forward and navigate that in a way that is personal and that creates that special bond. You know, people ask me all the time, how do you get patients to trust you? You've got to share your heart. Because if you are holding back, they're going to hold back too. You're still the leader in this scenario every time, because they're coming to you as the authority, as the expert, as the one who knows. And we have to honor that. I mean, just because someone calls us up and actually shows up for an appointment doesn't mean they've chosen us. It means we haven't screwed up yet, you know, and that we still have an opportunity to be able to have them belong. But we have to know them. Like, it makes me crazy when doctors do an exam before they get to know the patient. How do you know how to design your treatment plan if you don't know anything about this person? If you don't know what's going on in their life, what matters to them, that this woman wanted to get her mojo back. You know, it's like...
And that's like when people feel seen at that level. Now, the risk is she opens up and it doesn't get handled well, not good. But you know, you're trained, you know what to do. So when she does open up and you receive that and you acknowledge it and you just sit with her in that place of understanding, you don't understand. Like, I am now, as the patient, I am going to give you so much, almost like the benefit of the doubt, so much leeway, because it's like, well, I already had this connection that
Right.
was unbelievable. Like, I freaking love my practice because they get me.
Yes.
And not every business has a chance to do that. Like, don't get me wrong, if you go into Chipotle, they have great processes, they have great food. But when you're going through that line, they just have a little bit of a moment to be like, you know, sir, what would you like? You know, and you know, Chick-fil-A, they take advantage of every moment. My pleasure. Every single moment they lean into, right? And they try to be intentional with. But in healthcare, especially in dentistry, you've got time to really make the most of it beyond just a simple little greeting.
And we work in a very intimate area. I mean, people that get that close to them are usually their intimate partners, you know, or have an intimate relationship with them. And so we're invading that intimate space. So we have to get intimate with them, connected, and have them feel safe with us before we pull the Explorer out. You know, it's like, how do we help them down their pathway? It's by listening, deep listening. And that, I tell you, is a lost art in our world. It's like taking the time to listen and then asking another question into that. So Shawn, I have a client that I've been working with for a while, and he's an engineer. He's an owner of an engineering firm. And he told me yesterday, he said, he's created this amazing culture now that we've been working together with his team. And he goes, I ask him these questions and he goes, look how great this went. You know, it's like he's excited about getting in there with his team, asking juicy questions that get to the heart of things. It's the same thing with our patients and with our team. You know, the doctor serves not only the patients, but serves their team. If we take care of our team, they will take care of our patients.
Okay, so there's something you said a little while ago that like I saw something and I was like, in case you go too far away from it,
Okay.
that idea of getting people to trust you and feel safe, like I feel like there's a certain energy to it. And what I mean by that is like you can tell when you're with someone and they don't have, let's say, competence in a clinical way. Like, so as a dentist, as a hygienist, when you're chairside,
Yep.
you are almost releasing a certain even frequency and energy of like, I know what I'm doing, you can trust me. But
Yes.
that's like expertise, competence, I trust you.
Yes.
That still doesn't mean emotionally I'm safe.
Right.
And that's where I feel like this concierge expert, this, treatment coordinator, whatever the title is, to be able to get someone to also feel like you're not just safe when it comes to we're going to do great clinically,
Right.
but you're safe to just be you because we see you and we get you. That's like it's a confidence, but when you're confident in there and you kind of just rest into it, I feel like it releases an energy that people can feel. You know how they say animals can sense fear?
Yes.
Okay, humans, we also have these crazy BS meters too. Maybe we don't know what that signal is per se, because we're so advanced, we're just good at ignoring it, but we can tell something feels off. So like subconsciously, we just end up not opening up. So you wonder, why is it that people time and time again would open up, would share? It's because of what you do intentionally to get them to do that. And I feel like that's where I bet there's people in the practice right now that maybe just haven't been given permission
Yeah.
to own that role. And
Total.
right? Because they're already extroverted, they're already high on the EQ. All they want to do is care. And maybe following all these rules and procedures is the part that takes more effort and it's harder, but it just comes naturally if they would just give them permission to care. Because I think the dentist might be like, wait a second, so do I need to be someone I'm not? Because maybe 15, 20% of the dentists are amazing emotionally too, but maybe 75, 80% are very scientific,
And
more.
mostly introverted.
Right, right.
That is who shows up in dental school is typically some really brilliant introverts, and now we're asking them to be people, and so it's a dance. And if you're great clinically, things go well. But if you are shut down emotionally, the patient doesn't get all the goodies, and neither do you. Like, that's the part that I am on a mission that I want the team and the doctor to get their due from the patients. The love, the honor, the connection, the things that they just go, oh, you changed my life. And I wouldn't want to go anywhere else. I am a Raving fan because you changed my life. You listened to me. You took care of me. You held my hand through the hard stuff. And now I'm at a different place in my life because of you. I had one guy, he came in and told me, he goes, I just want to get a girlfriend. He'd never had a girlfriend before. And I'm like, dude, let's rock on that, because it's not about what we do in our four walls. It's what we create for them outside of our four walls.
So, how much do you know about the Ritz-Carlton? Like, have you done any sort of investigation into what set them apart?
I've done a little bit.
Okay, same. I've only done a little bit, so I wonder if our littles are the same. And I probably should do more at some point because it's a fascinating case study to me that among the 5-star resorts and hotels, like they all have first rate, like sleeping accommodations, like amazing bathrooms, like
Great
it's not
sheets, great towels,
right.
all the good stuff.
The Ritz didn't have some special marble that no one else had. Like they didn't, you know what I'm saying? They didn't somehow leverage architecture or lighting in a way that no one else did.
And it's still a hotel room, right?
Right. And yet, so you go first. What, from your understanding, what what did you hear about what made them different?
Is saying your name, knowing their name. People, that is the sweetest words we ever hear. And so I
Dale
know
Carnegie.
what? Go.
Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends, right?
It's like, how do we use their name over and over and over and over? It sounds simple, but people don't do it. But Ritz-Carlton does. They want to make sure that you feel important. It's like that walking around with the "make me feel important" sign. Yeah, they all know me. How cool is that? But they also, I know behind the scenes, they have little cards that they keep up with the things about you that they know, so that they can create a remarkable experience.
Okay, so if I'm just going to add a little bit to that. So, and the reason why this is such a fascinating case study is because I feel like it's so like synonymous with dentistry in the sense that every hotel was committed to trying to give their guests the best. Every dentist was committed to trying to give their patients the best. So how did the Ritz get so distinguished? And on top of the list and the name, they also were given discretionary money
Yes.
that they could spend on a guest experience. So all of a sudden, if the guest is like, "Oh man, I just realized I didn't have my phone charger," right away, it's okay. We'll take care of it. What kind of phone do you have? It'll be up in your room in 20 minutes. Enjoy your time. Like they could buy things. They could take care of something just when it came to thoughtfulness and care to go above and beyond, and they were empowered to do that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, crazy, right? It's like, what could we do in the dental office that would create that experience as well? I mean, it's like, do we have a comfort menu that patients can choose what they want? I mean, I worked with an office in Georgia that had a wine bar, and they opened a bottle of wine every day with patients, in the later part of the day. Those were the appointments that everybody wanted. It's like, I think everything opened around 3, and, it was like happy hour for the rest of the time. But it's like, what do you do that has you stand out? That is special. Like, at the front desk, I like a front desk where I can get up and go around and be able to touch the patient, shake their hand, give them a hug, welcome them into the office. Being behind a desk sometimes creates that barrier of connection. So, when I help people build new offices, it's like, okay, hold on. We've got to make sure that the person behind that desk can get out and around to be personable.
So what do you think the biggest struggle is when it comes to the way that a team or a dentist might be thinking that would kind of, I don't know, maybe distract them from making this a priority? Like, from your experience, do you think it's more like ignorance, or it's more that they've just kind of bought that it is the technology, or that it is this new thing, and that's what really elevates their practice? Like, what mindset or wrong belief do you think they might have that's keeping them from really fully embracing this? Now, I know a lot of them are, but I'm just saying, in the ones that aren't.
The ones that aren't, I think they just get comfortable. And they think that
Like, they settle, kind of like just get complacent.
good enough.
Mm.
And good is the enemy of great. It's like, yeah, it's good, but could you take it to that next level? And I think that, I mean, like you said earlier, sometimes people just haven't been given the permission to go for it and to really be their complete spectacular self. And so how do we empower our team? It's like giving them permission to come up with creative ideas. And no idea is a bad idea. It's like getting a whiteboard and how can we spoil our patients? How can we create a wow experience? Having that as a fun team meeting and coming up with what are all the ways. So we had one that we did with a team that they said, okay, here's the scenario. Across the street is a brand new office. Their goal in life is to put us out of business. So what are we going to do so that doesn't happen? What are we going to do that is crazy, out of the box, like making a difference for these patients? So I mean, there were some that came up with we're gonna have umbrellas, you know, because it was in an area that rained a lot. It was like we're gonna walk them out with umbrellas and let them take the umbrella home, and it has our logo and stuff on it. It's like, you know, we have little slippers for them that they have, you know, like when you go to the spa. You know, it's like, let's get comfortable. Let's take your shoes off. You're going to be here a while. Let's get you comfortable. Let me get you all wrapped up in this blanket. It's like, what are the things that we're willing to do that are special? I did hand paraffin on patients, new patient after new patient after new patient after new patient on, and even some of the guys were like, no, I don't need it. I'm like, you got to do it once, just once, do it with me. And then they wanted it when they came back. It was so cool. It was like, I've never been pampered like this before. And it's giving them the opportunity to experience something special. How do we have them feel that it's like the pixie dust? So like in my logo, I know I told you this before, I have like, it looks like the Cinderella fairy godmother wand that, you know, spreads the pixie dust. And that's what I feel like this is all about. It's like, how do we spread this magic and make a difference?
So I have a thought, and it could just be because of today and the fact that, like I said, it's my anniversary. But you said the enemy of, like, you know, great is good or good enough, and how practices oftentimes just end up kind of like settling into it and just kind of forgetting. And it reminded me of marriage. Like, you you get a new patient. It's all about acquisition. It's exciting. They're there the first time. Maybe you're on your best behavior. Who knows?
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's like, check, like I did it. Like, meaning I reached the summit. Next. And in some ways, it's kind of like with a lot of people, a lot of my friends, and I'm even guilty of this to some extent. It's like you get married and it's like you cross what seems like the finish line of, like, she said yes, like, you know, till death do us part, the ring's on her finger, she's my wife. And now it's like, okay, we're looking forward at kind of like the next quest or the next pursuit.
Yep.
And yet then the relationship and the marriage can kind of just be good enough,
Yeah.
where you coast.
Taking it for granted.
Yeah, where you
things for, so you stop dating after you get married. So I love to use the dating metaphor as that for when we're with a patient. It's like, if you're dating, you know, it's like, are we paying attention to making sure every patient that walks out of our office has a next appointment? So you think about a first date. If you really are interested, you're going to set up the next date on the first date. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So my partner, Dr. Montgomery, he always says, he's like, that is being in relationship. If we don't have an appointment, a next date, we're out of relationship. So it's like, how do we stay in relationship with them and that they value it? That it's, you know, we're reserving this time especially for you. You know, so I will be here, I will be on time, I will be ready, and we're going to rock it out when you come. And saying that to them, I can't wait to see you, as I'm not a hygienist, but as a hygienist would say, I'm going to see you back in 4 months, and I know you're going to be better because of what we talked about today. I can't wait to see you at this appointment because we're going to have something to celebrate. You know, how much time did that take me? 15 seconds? Not much. But it's like the little things matter. And it's like, yes, it's a lot of emotional energy that we expel. But I promise when you give like that, you will get tenfold what you've given. And that, I mean, when I started working at a practice in Orange County, California, a startup practice, and we were creating some cool processes with the new patient process, like what I do with Patient Concierge Institute. And I had a patient who wrote me a $62,000 check. And one of our assistants was like, what? No way. What in the heck? What were y'all? How did that even happen? Like she'd been in dentistry for 20 years. She's like, I've never seen that happen ever. And I said, I want you to know that this is who we are. You just don't know it yet. 2 months down the road, we had another large treatment plan acceptance. And she goes, that's who we are. That's who we are. Like, she got it. It was like, yes, we get to do something miraculous, something life-changing because we're listening, we're paying attention, we're looking for opportunities, we're painting possibility portraits for patients of what the future can look like. People come to us with shame and embarrassment. You know, oh, I had braces and I didn't wear my retainer. I'm a bad person. Blah. I hate that. It's like, no, you are here now, and I am honored that you are here. You give me an opportunity to do what I love. You know, and so there's no judgment. There's no judgment zone. We're here to love them. And giving your heart away is what gives them the opportunity for something miraculous.
I feel like that's like so quotable. So like that is powerful. So back to what you just said though, Dee Dee, that's leadership. You are such an amazing leader that you can be like, someone sees this check that they've never seen before and they're just like, oh, is this kind of like a fluke? And right away you're like, no. Culture. You're setting the culture, you're setting the expectation. This is who we are. At identity of the culture, of the practice, this is just us now. And then right away, when it happened again, they even echoed the same exact thing because they believed it. And it's like for a dentist and their team to just set the culture and be like, this is the way we do dentistry. When you understand your why in that mission and it becomes clear, it's not just so that it's on the wall or because you went through some random weird branding exercise because that's what you were told to do.
Right.
If it doesn't actually get to the heart of what you believe, it's going to be empty.
Yeah.
But if it gets to the heart, then it's actually going to get infused into the culture. And then it's no longer something that you're having to review every single, week or every single month. It becomes second nature, And when I think of, I love the relational context that you brought up because when I think of how people actually even get to feel known by somebody, it's through each of them disclosing just something about themselves. And yet the practice has a story.
Yeah.
And to think that the patient understands the full breadth of that story the very first time they come, it's like, no, you are actually in the practice of continuing to disclose. This is like, the dentist and his family, like where they go vacation. This is us as a team. This is what we love. This is what we do. Like, this is why, because you keep wanting them to connect. This is how humans connect. This is as old as the beginning of time. It's like, I reveal a little bit about myself and now you know. So now I'm a face, I'm a person, I'm a human,
Yes.
and not just this professional, sterile, robotic
Lab
individual. Right. That there's no sense of we understand each other. And then if there's indifference, well, I can go to the dentist down the street because I'm not really breaking relationship. There was indifference.
You're right. There wasn't a relationship. So I've done an exercise years ago. As you were talking, it made me think of it. It's how people are constantly searching to create feelings for themselves. Like, what do you want to feel every day? I want to feel accomplished. I want to feel like I'm making a difference. I want to feel bold. I want to feel connected. Like, those are the things I know that drive me, that get me out of bed in the mornings. One of my doctors, he's like, I want to feel like we are having fun. Like, fun. Like, that's who that person is in their practice. We help find the whole team around him that's all about fun. Because if you don't have the people around you that echo the things that you believe, it doesn't go anywhere. Like, what you believe just stops with you. So, being clear about who you are, what feelings do you want to create every day for yourself? Being bold for me is that risk taking, is that being vulnerable a little bit, putting myself out there. It's doing the first Sandbox session. It's like, hey, we can do this. And being able to share the things that matter to you. So that's still the same thing when I'm working with a doctor, when we're working with teams, when we're working with patients, we've got to give more than we get. And as leaders, we go first. Leadership takes guts, takes courage, takes bravery, because it may not work out. It may not go perfect. We're humans. We're messy, like you said earlier. This is a messy thing. But relationships is what I believe is what our life is about. We are social creatures. And people want to be connected and to belong. Like, that is one of the things I would talk with patients. It's like, we're not the dentist for everyone, and it's okay. But after today's visit, if you go, I don't think this is for me, I will help you find somewhere that's a fit for you. And I mean that with my whole heart. It's like, I don't want them to walk away feeling like they don't know where to go next. But 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, they want to be cared for. They want to be heard. They want to be loved. And we create that connection. But it's a choice. And that's probably the biggest thing. It's like, if you aren't happy in your job, go somewhere else. Find what lights you up, and then put your whole heart and soul behind it. Like, I believe we got into healthcare because we care about helping people. But I know that not everybody has that pilot light lit. That it's up to us as the leaders, as practice owners, as coaches, consultants, is to help ignite that fire in their belly and give them a purpose to make a difference, and to empower them to empower our patients. I didn't do speaking until somebody else believed in me first. And said, you know what you have to say, I want you to get up there and tell this room of doctors. And I'm like, whoa, intimidated. I'm not a doctor. What do I have to say that's important? But I've managed that whole negative self-talk. But it took time. It took effort. It took, putting myself out there and falling down and getting back up. Being awkward about it. Anytime we do something new, it's gonna be awkward. Cool. Then you're on the right track. I heard someone say, we're gonna suck when we start to do something. That's embrace the suck, because it's only that gets you to greatness. Like, you've got to stumble around a little bit, it's funny, like a little kid trying to walk for the first time. Now, as a parent, you would go, oh, they took 2 steps and then they fell. Oh, guess our kid's not a walker. It's like, do we give up when they fall down and go, oh yeah, our kid's just not going to get it. They're just not going to be a walker. They're just going to
call the pediatrician. Something's wrong. Our child only took 2 steps. Maybe he's never going to walk, or she's never going to. The pediatrician would laugh at you.
How ridiculous is that? But it's like, when we fall, or we get embarrassed, or we have an awkward moment with a patient or with each other, like, how do we navigate those difficult conversations? I think that's where the gold is. I used to have my office, if we had an upset patient, they're like, Dee Dee, phone for you. Mrs. Jones is upset about something. And I'm like, yes, I get to handle that. Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to bring the temperature down, to listen, to problem solve, to help them feel heard. Because 9 times out of 10, they're gonna tell you what's up. It's how we respond to that. Like sometimes I love that we screwed up with a patient because our recovery was so good that they wouldn't go anywhere else. They're like, oh my gosh, yes, we had a hiccup, and yet we recovered together.
No, truly, that's even what I encourage a lot of early, like young fathers with. Because, a lot of men in my life that I ended up talking to, and we had kids younger than a lot of people. And I'm like, look, you got to lean into the moments that you screw up. And all you got to do is just swallow your pride, swallow your ego, and just say, I'm so, like, that moment of getting to humble yourself and make it right wins hearts. It
Totally.
wins hearts. But if we stay, all detached and ego and like, oh no, there's no way, it's your fault and we're pointing fingers, it's like, okay, so you won the battle, but you lost the war because that patient's never coming back.
Coming back. And they're going to go talk about you to more people in a negative way than they ever
A
would.
remark about the horrible, remarkable.
Yeah, you're creating a remarkable experience that you weren't really wanting to have happen. Yeah, I see a lot of that happens, and then they have bad reviews, and then there's it's the blame game, and I see that just within the dental office. Mistakes are opportunities to make someone feel wrong and bad and terrible. Mistakes, I want mistakes to be embraced as it's a learning opportunity. If we can do that, you're creating a safe space for your team, which then creates a safe space for your patients. It's like, oh yeah, we looked at the schedule and Mrs. Smith is on the schedule today. We're supposed to seat her crown, and her crown's not here. And we didn't look at the schedule the day before to make sure that it was here. And so now what? Are we going to blame the lab? If we blame the lab, it makes us look bad for working with that lab. Like, really? Don't do that. Are we gonna just apologize and go, you know what? We want it's not perfect, and we want it to be perfect for you. My doctor looked at it and we want it to be perfect, and it's not. It's not perfect because it's not here. I don't need to tell the whole story, but it's like, yeah, it's not a perfect situation for them to come in today. But it's like, how do we do that with grace? How do we do that without throwing somebody under the bus? Because it doesn't have to be that way.
Okay, so you said something about that powerful exercise about how you can kind of choose the way you want to feel. And as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, man, so if I'm a dentist that's like introverted and I'm like, I could definitely hear a lot of this through the lens of like, oh great, now I'm told I have to be something I'm not, and I have to be this or be that. And yet I feel like at the heart of what we're saying is also like we're giving permission for dentists and their team to actually stop trying to be something, stop trying to perform, stop trying to play these roles that you think the world expects of you. It's like come into your own sandbox in your practice
And play.
and play,
And be your fully expressed, authentic self. I never want, I hear this all the time. Oh, if I could just have a Dee Dee in my office. I'm like, no, you don't want me in your office. Like, you want your team in your office to be their biggest, best version of themselves, but we have to give them permission to do that. You have to give yourself as the doctor permission to be your funny self, to be your musical self, to be your dancing self, like whatever weird thing that is you, embrace it. That is your brand.
Amen.
I had a doctor, we were building a new office, and he goes, well, I don't know about this, and I don't know about this process, and because I'm afraid. I go, what are you afraid of? well, I'm afraid they're going to think I'm weird. I go, well, you are.
You are.
You are.
So am I. And so am I.
Own it. Yes. It's like, yeah, embrace your weird, but do it in a way that's authentic.
Yep.
Because then it becomes endearing and people love you more for being your quirky little self.
And that works even just in like influencers that are truly crushing it, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram, like they aren't performing.
Right.
Like Mr. Beast isn't performing. He's actually just kind of himself, and he's pretty simple. And he just had the courage to show the world who he is. And you even said it a moment ago when you were talking about being courageous enough to show up with me on the first Sandbox session. And I think all we ever think about is how scary it is to do what you did. But you know what is actually just as scary? Not doing it. So, and now you feeling the weight of, oh my gosh, I hid again. I backed down again. I gave up. I have regret again inside in this weight because I keep hiding. I keep telling the world I'm ready to step up and show my light. But then when I have an opportunity, I second guess, I bow out, I play it small. And your self-image is like so confused. Wait a second. So are we embracing that we have something to give, or are we hiding because we're ashamed of who we are? Like that's a deep.
It is.
You stepped up. Yeah. And you had no problem jumping in. But you know what? It would have been worse if you didn't. Like as scary or as hard as it is to step up into something and try something, yeah, it's actually a lot scarier just to stay the same, yeah, and keep on playing it small. I don't think we talk enough about how much that sucks.
Well, I think that's our enemy right there, is staying small and...
Oh, you're still muted though.
Is that better? Not embracing our gifts. You know, be your nerdy self. It's cool. Being a nerd is cool these days. Like, embrace that.
So when did this land for you though? And everything's a spectrum. I get that. So it's a spectrum. But as close to let's say if we were to say imposter syndrome or
I still have that.
I know, but the idea of like the container or wall that gets us to feel like we have to keep faking it or pretending, mm-hmm, when do you think you finally like those walls just came down? Because the second someone experiences that liberation, they never want to be captive to that again.
It's when I took the focus off of myself. That's what I was doing some speaking and I was a nervous wreck. I was throwing up. I was sweating. All before I started anything. And the doctor that I was working for came up beside me and said, "Your message is for them. It's not about you. Your dress, your skirt, your heels, your earrings, whatever. None of that matters. Share the message. And the right people will hear you. And then that's your tribe. That's who you can make a difference with. Quit judging." So I grew up doing pageants on the stage, being judged my whole life. And that got in the way of me being my fully expressed self for many years. Mm. But I think in that moment of realization that it's not about me, that it's about who I am caring for, who I am sharing with, how I am connecting. It's about them. It's way easier when you flip that script and make it about the patient, make it about the team, make it about your client. Because at the end of the day, that's how people will love you. And you're giving, when you give love, it's gonna come back to you. I believe that with my heart and soul. It's like that's that is what people are craving, especially in the world we live in today, living on our digital, behind our digital screens and being disconnected from, people since COVID. Isolation has not served us. And in the dental office, we have a mask and glasses and a gown and, barriers that get in our way. It's like, I don't want to meet a patient for the first time in an operatory, in that scary chair for them that they aren't in control. I want to sit knee to knee, eye to eye, and talk about why they're here, what matters to them. Let's look at some photos together. Let's dream. Let's create some dreaming for the future. And then let's talk about what your values are and what your goals are, so that I can hold my doctor accountable that, hey, this gal, she never wants to have a root canal ever. So what can we do to make that happen? I want to be the advocate for the patient when the patient's not here. When the doctor's treatment planning, and I'm like, come on, doc, they said I didn't want a root canal. What's another option we can do? Or they don't want to go without teeth. How do we get them from point A to point B and they always have teeth and we're removing teeth? How do we manage that in a way that's seamless, that honors them and creates a process that they have been heard? And that we can, I guess if I go through goals with patients and it's unrealistic, we've got to, have a come to Jesus meeting on that. It's like, okay, there are some things that, it's like, I wish I never had to be here. Well, you know what? I'm here every day. So, like, how do we get, if they don't ever want to come, then that's really hard for us to be able to take care of them, but barring that, creating realistic goals and a pathway, anything's possible. I believe that is probably the thing I live by the most, is anything's possible. Having a possibility conversation with anybody on the planet is one of my favorite things to do. Because I grew up, my mom told me that anything I put my mind to, I can accomplish. And crazy, I believed her, So
but there's so much to be said about believing, like actually believing. And I know life sucks and can be tough sometimes. And what happens is we get circumstances, volleys that come at us in life that really end up crushing those belief centers of ours. So then all of a sudden it's like, well, gosh, I don't know what to believe with wholeness, what to believe with full conviction. Because it's like, oh yeah, so your mom said that, you believed it, but then all of a sudden 5 circumstances in a row crushed it and made you think, nope, sorry, life's up, then you die. Like, it's a sentiment because life is tough. But back to what even you were saying about something having to do with giving, and it reminded me again of that whole saying of like, you are meant to be a gift, and just like any gift, it's meant to be given.
Yes.
Like, it was so profound what you said about the second those walls came down, it's when you realized it wasn't about you. Like, this self-awareness of like, me, like it's all about me, ego. It's like, well, then we self-filter and we self-edit, and eventually we end up just hiding. And it's like, no, nobody, or faking, and nobody wins.
Right.
And you don't share your
mask
with the world, right?
Yeah.
So I love that.
It's exhausting.
It is, and yet that's why I love that you not just are liberated, but since you've been liberated, Dee Dee, you just give with such generosity, such intensity. Anybody that meets you or is seeing this can tell this is you through and through. It's what you believe with full conviction, and it's amazing to meet someone that still has conviction. Because it's like, well, if you want to be liked, don't have conviction. Like, if you want everyone to like you, then don't wave any sort of banner or flag.
Right.
Because at some point, someone's going to be like, ugh, I don't know. I don't like what you stand for. And it's like, well, guess what? This is who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I was told for many years I was too much, too something. And I just said, you know, tough, just tough. This is it. This is all of me. You know, you either love me for who I am or don't. But I'm not gonna not be myself 100% because it's too exhausting. I tried that. Tried to be perfect, you know, and I think that is a disease in our industry because, you know, dentists get beat down in dental school and, you know, get made to feel scared of everything, scared of a lawsuit, scared of the board, scared of, you know, somebody writing a bad review, somebody taking your license, like all the scary things that is crazy and yet necessary, like, you know, compliance to the rules and doing the right thing and taking care of the public in a healthy way is all good. That's why we have licenses and stuff. But when you get beat down, it's hard to believe that you're super great, that you hid your Superman costume back in dental school because they beat it out of you. I see that every day. It's the confidence that it takes to be a dentist is huge. And I know that dentists are brilliant people. They've always been used to excelling. That's how they ended up getting through dental school. But then out of dental school, they're owning a practice. And now they're like, oh, maybe the first time in their life that they're not excelling at a high level and they're like fish out of water. Like, what am I going to do? I've never experienced this. And they don't have a community, a mentor, a friend who can hold their hand through that. That's my job as a coach, is to help you get through that doubt, that thing that, you know, that they beat you down with in dental school. Told you weren't good enough, that, you know, all of those crazy negative self-talk stuff that we carry around. And sometimes it may not even be from dental school. It may be from our childhood. You know, it may be your team deals with that. You know, maybe it's interesting, the whole dynamics in a dental office. We have doctorate level people with people that may or may not have even graduated high school, all under the same roof, and all kind of in between. And so we learn differently, we experience life differently, and yet we have to create a team out of that.
Okay, something you said was really profound. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so you were saying the pressure on a dentist. I love that you were just so honoring about dentists. And then you were like saying, like, yeah, they scare you, and you know, again, with lawsuits or liability. And I get it. Then why it's like, well, the only safe place then for me as a dentist, now that I've graduated, is to like follow the leader, you know, model behavior that's going to be successful in a mentor. And that's a great starting point, right? But then at some point you have to figure out and be like, well, but who am I in practice?
Who am I, and what do I want?
Right.
What do I want to create here? What? It's finding your why. Like, why am I here in the first place? Why does this matter? Why did I choose this? And, you know, you have to look in the mirror to do this. And that's some of the hardest work that we do, you know, is getting real with ourselves. We do that with patients all the time. We have a facial reality moment when we put the big pictures up on the big screen and go, yeah, that's you, man. What now what? But it's like, are we willing to put ourselves on the big screen and look and go, okay, I'm used to excelling. I graduated dental school. I'm really cool and awesome. And there's a lot of things I still don't know. It's admitting that we don't know and asking for support. You don't have to know everything. Cool. There's somebody out there that's done it. There's somebody out there that can be supportive, but we have to ask. We have to be bold enough to ask for support. And I don't know that that is a norm, especially with introverted people. You know, it's like they need a space, a safe space, to be able to tell the truth.
Yeah, that it's okay to actually struggle in dentistry. Like dentistry's freaking hard. Like it is so hard. Just the clinical pressure is hard enough, let alone the fact that you also have to run your own business and handle all the chaos that's
And lead a team of mostly women. Okay,
Can I get some amens out there from the man?
Kudos to the guys out there that are dental assistants and hygienists and front office team. But majority of the time, it's leading a team of women. That in itself is a big ask. And yet there's people out there doing it at a super high level. But it's because they've been self-reflective. They've put their heart out there. They have read, they have listened to experts to find ways forward. But it's like, how do we design that to fit them perfectly? It takes time and effort and team meetings and whiteboarding stuff and making the time. I mean, that's probably the thing that I hear from dentists the most and teams. Well, we don't have time for that. We don't have time. Oh, we can't do that. We don't have time. We don't have time. We're so busy. We don't have time. I'm like, really?
You did a great impersonation there.
I'm telling you, this has been my life. It's like you don't have time not to. If you want the rewards in life, if you want the goodies, then you've got to invest time, energy, effort, just like you did in dental school. It takes that effort, because now you've got probably student loans, maybe a loan to buy a practice, so the debt service is high. So like you can't mess it up. It's like it's a lot of pressure on young people, right out of school and then buying a practice. I mean, there's a lot. And yet there's people out there that can support and help. I mean, that's why we're here, right, Shawn, is because we care. I want their journey to be smoother, easier, more fun, more fulfilling.
Right. Not just, I love that fulfillment piece, because without the fulfillment piece, there's a chance you get to the top of a mountain and look around and you're like, why? Like,
It's a bunch of BS, right?
why did I arrive somewhere and now I'm alone? I feel terrible and I wasted my best years, compromised my health, all to reach a destination that actually didn't even line up with what I give a damn about. Sorry to say it that way, but truly.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and that's where I meet a lot of doctors, is they are lacking the fulfillment in their life. And it's not just in the office, it spills over into their family, because who you are anywhere is who you are everywhere. So it's like, if you're miserable at the office, you're going to be miserable at home too. So how do we get out of that? It takes courage.
But this also goes back to the raving fans, because it actually feels good to connect with patients that become raving fans, where they actually feel liked and appreciated, and you can tell because they're vocal about it. They express appreciation. And then you're showing up to work and it's like, I like what I do. You get some sense of pride. ChatGPT, I was asking him like, okay, what's the value of a raving fan? It's like a raving fan is worth nine. It doesn't say that, but 9 times more to a practice. So here we are. We're in this rat race of like quantity, quantity, quantity. Well, if a raving fan is worth 9 times more, maybe you can slow it down a little bit. Maybe you can really focus on not just exceptional clinical care, but people/patient care and elevate that. And like your profit will go through the roof. And at the same exact time, you won't feel so manic
Yeah.
about this crazy pace that's not sustainable.
So I love to say we're going to slow down to go fast. We've got to slow down and evaluate all of our systems. What's working, what's not working, what's working, what's not working. What's fulfilling and what isn't. What service mix if it's on your schedule, implant, and you're like, oh, it's going to suck. I hate this. I'm worried. I'm nervous. It's like everyone's going to be able to tell. You can't so I have one doctor who says, I don't want to see blood. I don't like blood. I don't deal with it. So I will no longer do extractions. No, I want nothing to do with it. And he's happy with that. But it's like, you can't be everything to everybody. You've got to be who you are and choose what you feel good about. And if you need more expertise, then go take a class. Go get some instruction.
Okay, so Dee Dee, I'm curious. You mentioned early on about the art of listening, and I just put like a pin in it. I'm like, oh, I want to circle back to this because I feel like it is a lost art. And I'm curious, when you're there with the patient and when you're teaching other people how, it's like, what can they do to elevate their listening skills?
Taking notes. And asking questions into, like if a patient, the person who asks the questions controls the conversation. If you want to be in control of the environment, you're asking the questions.
So what do you mean by that? No, just kidding. I was trying to take control.
Right. So it's also, I want to know from there's probably 5 or 6 categories of things that I want to find out about a patient. I want to find out who they are. Are they married? Do they have kids? If so, what are their names? What do they do for fun? They're, kiddos. What do they do for work? Like their job title, but like, what do you do when you're at work? And why did you choose that? Like,
okay, so when is this happening?
Fascinating to me. When is this happening? First appointment, first 10 minutes that I meet a patient. I want to also find out, what do they do for fun? What lights them up? And the reason I need to know that is it has a clinical reason. I've lived this. I had a patient once we did a smile design and her teeth kept breaking. And we're like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. This totally sucks. And so we redid it and, and we're like, what is going on? And her bite was perfect. Okay. Everything was balanced. We used a T-scan. We were able to balance forces, but she still kept breaking things. And we're like, what in the heck is going on? So we did a big photo shoot with a bunch of patients that we had done some smile designs on, and we asked her to come. She walks through the door and she's in an equestrian outfit with a little crop in her hand. And I'm like, whoa, Susan, like, what is this? And she's like, oh, didn't you know I'm a horse jumper? I didn't find that out in our first meeting. She's like jumping and slamming her teeth together on every jump. We needed to get her an appliance. Hello, to protect those babies. But if you don't know your patients, you don't know how that is going to affect you. Maybe they play hockey. Maybe they play baseball. Like, what are the things that they do for fun? How do they hear about us? What's their dental history? The good, the bad experiences.
Oh, hold on, Dee Dee, I'm only going to interrupt you because we actually had a question. So again, this is where I'm not good because I wasn't actually on Facebook, and at some point my team and I will figure out how to do this better. But 32 minutes ago,
Oh,
some really interesting guy named Mark Montgomery
oh, yeah.
said most of our training is in task doing. How can we take that foundation and shift it into concierge connection?
You know, he asked some really good questions.
I was like,
He is known for his questions. So this is where I've learned a lot about questions is from him. So that's funny. Yeah, so how do we do that?
because it's like, again, so we're doing tasks, right? We're focusing on tasks. How do we shift from that to like seeing, to connecting, to all of a sudden recognizing this is a person?
It has to be intentional. You have, like I said earlier back, we have to make a friend. It's about the connection. It's like, how are they? Who are they? We're listening. We're watching body language like a maniac. They do. I'm like, whoa. Tell me what that sigh was about. Now, most people go, oh, I saw that, but I don't know what to do with it. I noticed that. I noticed they crossed their arms, and I'm like, oh God, what just happened? And so my coaching in that is speak to the obvious. Hey, I saw you cross your arms. Are we okay? Hey, I saw that you hesitated. What are you thinking right now? That's one of my favorite questions. What are you thinking right now? Because patients will tell you if you ask. I can hear body language. This is funny. I could be behind the patient writing up notes, and the doctor and the patient are talking, and I hear a pause, and I'm like, whoa, there's something there. And I roll my chair back. I'm like, wait a minute, what was that? He asked this question and you hesitated. What was the hesitation about? I need to know this.
So, Dee Dee, that is next level. It's kind of like, you guys know, everyone knows this. When someone's walking up the stairs and they trip at the top of the stairs, you just instinctively know, should we like make a big deal of it? Because you can just tell that the sound pattern is way off. But for you to be that dialed in, that the pause, you're able to sense and see what's going on without actually seeing it.
Right.
Boom, that is next level.
Well, it's because I care. Grayson. It's because
Inviting someone else to the session?
yeah, my dog is barking. Can you hear him?
I can, that's okay. He just wants to be included.
Yeah, he does. It's because I'm looking for those things. I'm listening for those things. That it wasn't easy before. It's a skill. It's a skill that I have honed over years, and yet, if you pay attention, it's easier than you think. Way easier. It's like watching when people. I mean, probably my dental assistants out there and dental hygienists out there know this, because as you're working with a patient, they make a face, they squinch, they do something, and you're like, oh, are you okay? You know, so we're clued into that. It's just taking it into our communication time and paying attention to it there.
Yeah, this is just so insightful, because I'm thinking, okay, so if I'm a dentist, I'm also thinking, how does this impact HR? So when we're hiring for any future openings, we're not just thinking, okay, can you hit the bar clinically? You know, can you follow directions? Okay, cool. But what about your EQ? What about your intuition? What about your instincts? What about your ability to connect to, relate, broker trust, and actually like connect with another person in real time? You know, and I think
it comes naturally and not forced or faked or.
Yeah. And I guess to give a little bit of hope to the practices out there that maybe need to work on this, it's like, I think a good way of looking at this is that like it needs to hit the culture level. And if you walk into a practice and this isn't part of the practice, it's the same feeling as when you're going to buy a new home and you're in a house and it's a house. That's it. It's a house. It's empty. It's a house. And a few weeks later, whatever, once you've bought it, it's now a home. Homes feel different than simply a house. And a lot of practices don't have a culture of care. So it's like people are walking into a house. Sure, the walls are there, but it's sterile,
Yeah.
it's disconnected, and there's not life. And that's exactly why when I was interviewing you on the podcast, which for all the listeners out there, it's going to be coming up sometime in the future.
Yeah.
It was so evident to me that you are on a mission to restore the heart of dentistry, because the heart of dentistry is about people. It's about uncommon care. It's about this EQ stuff that seems all woo, but at the end of the day, it's actually what matters.
Yeah.
And it's a central part of it. So I just want to encourage all the practices out there, all the people, like just try to have a home. Something where people come and all of a sudden they just sense that there's belonging. There's a chance for them to belong. You can't belong in a house. There's no belonging in houses. There's only belonging in homes.
Yeah. Well, I like having teams put their core values together and like owning that. So then it becomes the team core values, and then it comes across. So when I moved from Texas to California about 10 years ago, and Dr. Montgomery, Mr. Smarty Pants with his questions, he asked me, he said, "You're going into this new practice. What are you going to create there?" I'm like, "What do you mean? We're gonna rock it." And he was like, "No, like, how's it gonna feel? What are you gonna intentionally do to create what feelings do you want to create in this office?" Sweetness was on the top of my list.
Wow.
How do I create that joyful sweetness that people want? And it's not with my patients, it's with my team. Like, how do I create my pleasure and mean it with my team? Can you help me with yachting? Can you help me with my instruments? My pleasure. Yes, of course, sweetheart. I would love to. Happy to help you. But that's not the culture that I see in offices every day, which is a shame. And I know that it's possible, but it takes intention, it takes effort, it takes practice, it takes risk. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing. It's like risking saying, I want sweetness in my office. Like we made it a joke in our office. If somebody came in a little cranky, I'm like, "Sherry, did you forget your sunshine today? Where do you have that hidden in your pocket? You need to pull that sunshine out and share it, because I know it's in there." Somebody's got to be the catalyst for that. Maybe multiple somebodies. Doesn't always have to be the doctor. Doesn't always have to be the office manager. It's like all of us need to bring it. I relate that to like LeBron James. Nobody's telling him to get motivated to go to practice today. Like, he shows up to change people, to make a difference, to bring the team together. And he does that because it's lit from the inside. So how do we do that?
So Dee Dee,
Yes.
we are at 89 minutes, which means you have been in the sandbox. You have been bringing it.
I'm playing.
You've been playing, and you have just been pouring out, shining your light, sharing your gift with the world. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
You didn't have to say yes.
No. Yeah. I
And-
said yes because I love this. I love giving to my dental peeps. Like, that's what makes me happy, is to see the light bulb turn on, to give something that maybe they've never heard it like that before. And like, I've had so many people in my life that have given to me. It's my obligation to give back. And so that was why I was here, is so that I can give to someone who I may never meet ever, but that I pay it forward.
Okay, so y'all, we threw a lot of stuff out there, a lot of different ideas, different paradigms, different ways of looking at it to see how you can try and create those uncommon connections so you can actually get raving fans, which are worth 9 times more to your practice. Now, if you don't want to brave this alone, then guess what? Dee Dee Reid is here. And she, with her Patient Concierge Institute, is ready to take you by the hand, you and your whole team. And you are in good hands because of the experience that she has. As you can see, she lives to be able to release this and elevate and empower other people to walk in this. So please reach out to her, Dee Dee Reid, Amplify Dynamics, Patient Concierge Institute. And Dee Dee, thank you so much for bringing it. You do not disappoint. You showed up with passion, with energy, and with so much insights. And it was a ton of fun for me. Like, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to play.